Welcome to the session on Node.js. So Node.js is a runtime environment for JavaScript. Usually, most popular place to see JavaScript is web browser, but you can also run your JavaScript on Node.js runtime environment. So Node can understand, interpret, and execute JavaScript code, technically speaking. What can we do with such kind of environment? Well, the answer is long, but long story short, you can perform any sort of IO operation using this environment which is running JavaScript. For this tutorial, let us focus on building a web application that will serve REST endpoints. Okay, two big words, web server and REST API. So what is web server? Basically, if you need some information on internet, you would either search in the Google or visit a website. So that means you're making a request from your laptop, mobile, or any other device that is connected to internet to a server. So this server is going to analyze the request, understand what you need, and then gives you the proper response. If you are looking for a HTML page, it will give you a page with the information on it. You can request pretty much any type of file on the internet, including image, text, video. So the server will take care about understanding the request and serving the right content with its right type. So in this lesson, we are going to learn how to build REST API that is going to serve a text/JSON type. So we are going to send a data collection to the client so that it can retrieve that information and show that information on the UI. So let's get started. Here I am on a website called jsonplaceholder.typecode.com, which is a placeholder API server for UI developers to simply integrate some API or get mock information and build the user interfaces. We're going to create one endpoint similar to this, like to-dos. So if I click on this, so this API request or the hypertext transfer protocol request is risen to the server, and server actually understood this request that it is trying to access some to-dos on my server, and it has sent the response of that particular information user is looking for. So we are going to create something similar. So we're going to create a web app or server that is going to listen on particular domain and a API URL. So we are going to build a web app or web server on this URL with this port. I think it should be 3000, and then let's listen on to-dos. Okay, now it is failing. Let's satisfy this request and serve the static text that we have seen like in the JSON placeholder website. Let us start by installing Node.js on our machine. So we need to first go to nodejs.org. Here you need to download the Node.js software and install it on your machine. So I would recommend you to use the LTS version, that is the latest version. So once you click on this, you will see the packages being downloaded here. If you are on Windows, you will download a Node.js exe file. You need to install that. Once you install that, come to the terminal and type node-v. So I'm checking if the node installed on my machine, and if installed, what is the version. So this is the first command. So I'm hitting it. Now node command, N-O-D-E, the node command is now recognized by the machine, and what I'm looking for is -v is the tag for version information, and that is returning me the version information. By the time you're trying, the version could be different and something else, but that is what the version that I have right now installed on my machine. So along with Node.js, you will also see another package or another tooling system installed on your machine, that is npm. So if you type this command npm -v, you should be seeing another version printed on the terminal. So we will come to this npm and what it does and how it helps, but for now you verify that installed. If not installed, try reinstall node again, or try the troubleshooting steps that are suggested on the website, and you should be good to go. So I've already installed it on my machine and I'm good to go. So I'm actually opening it, my VS Code now. Here I am. I've created an empty project and I would like to create my first Node.js project. To set up a Node.js project, first you need to open the terminal in your VS Code. So I'm going to view, show terminal, and here I have my shell opened. Now I'm actually hitting the command called npm init. So this is going to be initiating the repository of Node.js. So once I hit, you will be asked series of inputs. So it is by default populating my folder name as my project name. So I'm okay with it. So, and then what is the version of it? Basically, first time I'm starting, so it is 1.0. Description, simple web server. An entry point is, what is your entry point? How does your web server starts or ends? So that's my face of my web application, that is index.js. What is the test command? We don't need to worry about that yet. So we will move on. If this has a Git repository, what it is right now, let's not worry about it. Keywords, author, obviously the person who is creating the project, that is me, and license ISE. So don't worry. So you just run through those steps and finally say yes. Once you say yes, you will see this particular file is being created for you. So the package file is kind of a meta storage for your app. So what is your project name? What is the current version? So you will be keep on updating the version as in then you made some changes, like you build one feature, tomorrow you're building another feature, you need to update the version information. Most often the developers don't do that, but that's it. So now what is the main file? That is the entry point file. So if you starting your web application, your web application has to start from some point. So that is main file, that is this file. And let's not worry about rest of the things, but so this is your meta information. So all the information that is about your project. So is it enough? No, you need to first create the index.js file. So index.js file, remember in the package.json we said this is our main file, that is the entry point for the web application. So this local host is the host that my machine itself, the IP of my IP of my own machine. So on my machine, I'm going to activate a server on this particular port. So what is a port? Actually, each application interface has to be routed through a specific port on a web server. If you have constructed a home, you will have multiple entries to your home based on the needs. Based on the purpose of that particular entry port, we will design. So same to the machine as well. The traffic to this machine or traffic to that web server will be categorized into different ports. So each port will have one application listening to it or exposed via that particular port. So for now, for our web server is going to listen on this particular post. So localhost is nothing but the IP of the machine, like representation of the individual machine IP, and port is where our web server. So I'm just writing some code that will listen on the request coming to this particular URL, and they understand the request and they send the response. So the code that I'm going to write in this file is going to do all that job. The entire information that is coming from this request, so all the information is actually being sent to this function, and that particular function, in that particular function you will also receiving a response. So You don't have to build our entire response object as well, because the response object is also predefined and out of the box it is available. You just need to send or customize the thing that you want to send it to your browser. So let's try to send a variable like var obj. Maybe I can go to jasonplaceholder.com, and this is what our goal was, right? So you to send some to do information. So let me copy some information there and come here. Object is equals to, so now this is a valid object. Now I can send this object, entire object. I have to rerun that file. Now if I come back to my website, if I refresh, I am getting my response. So actually we did replicated, but not to the specific route or something, but we just did it on root route. So we can keep on adding some URLs like /to do or /users or /id. So we can configure all these routes. To do that, what do you need to do? So first let's move this to to-dos. To-dos is now, the server is saying I cannot get /to-dos because it is not able to understand, because we haven't configured /to-do. How do I configure that? App dot the get request. So this is typically a get request. What is this doing? The browser is trying to get some information from this URL. So typically that is a get method. So I'm saying app.get, that is the type of that particular request that is going to come here. So now the URL is to do, that is the route that is going to be listening on. So you start listening on this particular route and listen with this particular function. Okay, whenever you receive this request, you send that request to this function. Okay, req, and also send the response object, that the predefined or readily available response object, because response object is a pretty big object to transfer through internet and it should reach my server. Lot of things already pre-configured for you, but you just have to configure the data that you need to send and the content type that you want to send it to. Now response dot send, I want to send the to-dos object here. I still want to say hello when someone coming to my root URL. So I just want to greet somebody coming to my URL. So this direct URL, the root URL, I just don't want to give him some information. I just wanted to say hi. So that's what we did here, and moved that information to the to-dos. So if his intention is to access to-dos information, he will enter the to-dos URL here. And now here on the root URL, he has no intention. He's just trying to see whether my web server is, or myself, I'm going to visit the root URL and verify the app is listening on that particular URL or not, the app is on or not. So if the app is running, that root URL should give me hello world. Okay, that's fine. Or I can say app health is okay. So that's what I want to do. Simply just say app health is okay. And when you are saying that I need to-dos information and I'm trying to access to-dos information, then I understand your intention and I know what you need. I'm going to send you the information that you need. So now if I start my application saying note index.js, the app is listening because we said app.listen, and if I come back, this will tell me app health is okay. But if I go back to to-dos route, now I am getting the to-dos information back to my code. So how will I get this information to my UI? Let us suppose that you actually created a UI. You are trying to create a UI. Okay. So let me create a file on some other location. So let me create it on a desktop. So new folder. This is a UI project, and I'm opening it here, and I'm creating a index.js. Sorry, index.html. Here I'm trying to consume. So how do I consume this? So because I've just created a web server and exposed, the data, I'm sending this data through that web server. I did a pretty good job, and I want to use this on my UI. How do I get that? So you can try the fetch API in the JavaScript like this. Load data, async. So I'm just using async. So if you don't know what is async, await, so I have a video link on the top. If you would be seeing a pop-up, so click on that and learn about the promises, async programming patterns in JavaScript and all other stuff, and then you can continue from here. So load data, I'm just saying load data. Now const data is equals to fetch. Fetch is a JavaScript API that is going to fetch information, and I have to await. So I'll just say resolve, wait and resolve that information from this particular URL, and when the response is actually being rendered here, const data is equals to, once I receive that response, I have to again get the JSON format from that, or the data, JSON data from that response. I think here I should see that, and I should console log the data. So now this method is going to run the promise of converting that JSON data that is received from this API in this response, and that will convert it to JSON, and the JSON data is being stored on data, and I'm logging the data here. So I have to call this function. So now when I execute this function in the browser, so here I will see one more challenge with cars. So it's saying that you cannot access, so the Chrome is actually blocking the request that is going to this server, because you cannot be on google.com and access the resources of Facebook, right? So that's against the policy, or that's against a lot of things. So you cannot access the information from other website. But if the server, Google server, is allowing you to access the content, the browser does not stop you to go there and request that information. The fetch request will be succeeded. So how can I configure that my application to accept any response or any request that is coming from anywhere from the internet or anywhere from the other domains? You can do that. You can actually install a package called cars. So npm install cars -- save. Now I've installed cars, and I have to import cars. Const cars. If you want to verify, the cars is actually installed and stored on the dependencies. Again, if you delete this node module folder, you can just say npm install, and it will be installed in the node modules folder. Now require, that is the way to import the package. This should be a string, because we should supply the name of the package. It should be equal to. Now you should say, hey app, you need to use the cars method. Okay, that's what we're saying. We just say use cars. CORS means cross origin resource sharing is enabled. Now the latest server, the latest updates should be enabling my request to go through. Now since the cross origin resource sharing is enabled on my machine, now my UI is able to access the data. Now since the data is actually in my UI project, see, so both the project that I've opened are completely different. That is on some other UI and this is some other URL and this is on some other URL. Now you could see I'm getting the data here. So I can rely on this data. I can build UI, I can do an for loop and all that, add all this information in an LI UI format, so I can go crazy. So this is your hello world application. So try this and let me know if there are any questions or if you are unable to replicate the thing that we have discussed in the video. Just let me know in the comments or send me the request or the query on the Discord server that is in the description. I'll be able to help you. Thank you.